The first time I truly felt fear in my marriage was the night I saw him wash the black plate with shaking hands. It was past 9 p.m. in our apartment in Lekki. The generator hummed softly outside. I stood at the kitchen door, watching my husband, Benedict, rinse the black ceramic plate as if it was made of glass. His face looked pale. His lips were pressed tight. That black plate. Every night, he used it for dinner. Every single morning, he used a white plate for breakfast. It had been like that since our wedding. I used to think it was just one of those strange habits people bring into marriage. But that night, as he held the black plate close to his chest and whispered something under his breath, I felt cold inside. Then he turned and saw me staring. His eyes widened. "You were not supposed to see this," he said. My heart began to beat so fast that I could hear it in my ears. "See what, Benedict?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked down at the black plate in his hand. Then he looked back at me with an expression I had never seen before. Fear. And guilt. That was the moment I knew something was terribly wrong. But to understand how I got to that kitchen door, you need to go back to the beginning. When I married Benedict Lawson, I believed I had married the calmest man in Lagos. He was a chartered accountant. Quiet. Neat. Always on time. His shirts were always pressed. His shoes always polished. He spoke gently, even when he was angry. "I am Adora Lawson. I grew up in Surulere in a lively household where plates were just plates. You picked any clean one and ate your food. So when I noticed that Benedict separated his plates, I laughed at first. On our first morning as husband and wife, I served him fried plantain, eggs, and bread on a white plate. He smiled. "Thank you," he said. That night, I served his dinner on the same white plate. He froze. "Adora," he said softly, "please use the black one for dinner." I blinked. "Why?" "It is important," he replied. I waited for him to explain. He did not. He stood up quietly, went to the cupboard, took out a black ceramic plate with a thin silver line around the edge, and placed it on the table. "For dinner," he said. I remember laughing. "Is this some kind of food fashion?" He did not laugh back. "It is not a joke," he said. That was the first small crack in the smooth image I had of my husband. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. Everyone has habits. But the pattern continued. White plate in the morning. Black plate at night. Even if we ate rice and stew both times, he insisted on switching plates. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to tease him. I placed his lunch on the black plate. He looked at it for a long time. "Adora," he said carefully, "this is not dinner." "So?" I asked, smiling. He did not smile. He pushed the plate away. "I will wait until evening." I stared at him. "You will not eat because of a plate?" He stood up and walked into the bedroom. That was the first time he refused food in our marriage. That night, he barely spoke to me. The next morning, he woke up early and cleaned both plates himself. I watched from the doorway as he wiped the white plate gently, almost lovingly. But when he cleaned the black one, his hands were stiff. As if he hated it. As if he feared it. The tension in our home began to grow quietly, like a crack in a wall that nobody else can see. My mother visited one weekend. During breakfast, she noticed the plates. "Why are you using different plates?" she asked cheerfully. Before I could answer, Benedict replied, "It helps with discipline." "Discipline?" My mother laughed. He nodded. "White is for new beginnings. Black is for closure." My mother looked confused but did not press further. Later in the kitchen, she whispered to me, "Is he all right?" "I think so," I replied. But I was not sure anymore. Weeks passed. Then months. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. Benedict was already at the dining table. The black plate was in front of him. But there was no food on it. He was just staring at it. His lips were moving. I could not hear what he was saying. When he noticed me, he quickly stood up. "You are early," he said sharply. "Yes," I answered slowly. "What were you doing?" "Nothing." He picked up the plate and walked into the kitchen. That night, I could not sleep. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing. At exactly 11:30 p.m., he got out of bed. I kept my eyes half closed. He walked quietly to the kitchen. I waited a few seconds and then followed him. He did not see me. He stood under the dim kitchen light, holding the black plate. Then he placed it on the counter and touched the silver edge gently. "I did what you asked," he whispered. My blood ran cold. Did what who asked? I took a small step backward, but my foot hit the door. The sound echoed. He turned suddenly. And that is when he said the words that made my heart stop. "You were not supposed to see this." I looked at the black plate, then at my husband. And for the first time since I married him, I felt like I was living with a stranger. What exactly had he done? And who was he talking to through that plate? As he slowly began to walk toward me, still holding the black plate in his hands, I realized something even more frightening. The plate was not just a habit. It was a ritual. And I had just interrupted it. He stopped walking when he saw the fear on my face. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other in the quiet kitchen. The generator outside had gone off. The house was completely silent. "Benedict," I whispered, "who were you talking to?" He swallowed hard. The black plate was still in his hands. "No one," he said quickly. "That is not true. You should have stayed in bed." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. "I am your wife," I said. "If something is wrong, I deserve to know." He looked at me like he wanted to speak, like he was fighting with himself. Then he turned away and placed the black plate carefully inside the cupboard. "It is late," he said. "Go back to sleep." That was the end of the conversation. But it was not the end of my fear. The next morning, he behaved like nothing had happened. He used the white plate for breakfast as usual. He even smiled at me and asked if I wanted tea. But I could not stop thinking about what I had seen. That night, I decided I would find out the truth. After he left for work, I stood in front of the cupboard for a long time. The plates were stacked neatly. White ones on one side. The black plate alone on the other side. There was only one black plate. Just one. I took it out. It felt heavier than the white ones. I turned it over. On the back, near the base, there was a small engraving. 2 letters. ML. My heart skipped. Benedict's name was Benedict Lawson. Who was ML? I ran my fingers over the letters again. They were not factory markings. Someone had carved them by hand. My mind began to race. An ex-girlfriend? A family member? Someone who had died? I suddenly remembered something. On our wedding day, during the reception in Victoria Island, one elderly woman had pulled me aside. She had a serious face and deep lines on her forehead. "Take care of my son," she had said. I had smiled politely. "Of course, Ma." Then she added, "He carries things inside. Heavy things." I thought she meant normal life stress. Now I was not so sure. That evening, I did something bold. I served his dinner on a white plate. He sat down at the dining table and looked at it. Slowly. Silently. Then he looked at me. "You know the rule," he said. "What rule?" I asked softly. "The black plate at night." "Why?" I pressed. His eyes darkened. "Because that is how it must be." I felt anger rise inside me. "Must be for who, Benedict?" "For ML." The spoon slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. He stood up so fast that his chair scraped loudly against the tiles. "Do not ever touch that plate," he said. His voice was shaking. "Who is ML?" I asked again, my voice breaking. He stared at me for a long time. Then he sat back down slowly. "Miriam Lawson," he said quietly. The name felt heavy in the air. "Who is Miriam?" I whispered. "My sister." I blinked. He had never mentioned a sister before. "You never told me you had a sister." "She died," he said flatly. The word hung between us. Died. I sat down opposite him. "How?" He did not answer immediately. He stood up, walked to the cupboard, and brought out the black plate. He placed it gently on the table. This was hers, he said. I looked at it differently now. When we were young, he continued, we shared everything. But she always used this plate. She said black made her feel calm at night. His eyes looked far away, like he was seeing something from the past. One evening, we argued. It was small. Very small. She wanted to use the plate for breakfast. I told her she was being silly. I laughed at her. He swallowed. That night, she did not come home. My chest tightened. What happened? I asked softly. There was an accident, he said. A bus lost control. He paused. She had left the house angry because of me. Silence filled the room. So you think it was your fault? I asked gently. He did not look at me. She was my responsibility. I was the older one. He touched the silver edge of the plate. I promised her that I would respect her wishes. White for morning, black for night. I felt my fear slowly turning into sadness. But something still did not sit right. That explains why you use the plate, I said carefully. But it does not explain why you whisper to it. He froze. I watched his face closely. You said, I did what you asked. Who were you talking to? His breathing changed. He stood up again and began pacing. You will not understand. Try me. He stopped and faced me. Every night, he said slowly, I report to her. A cold feeling crawled up my spine. Report. I repeated. Yes, he said. I tell her how my day went. I tell her if I made mistakes. I tell her if I failed. My mouth went dry. She is gone, Benedict. I know that, he snapped. Then his shoulders dropped. I know she is gone, he repeated quietly. But I still hear her. My heart skipped. Hear her? He nodded slowly. Sometimes at night, when I close my eyes, I hear her voice. Asking if I have done better. Asking if I have made up for that day. The room felt smaller. You think she is judging you? I asked carefully. He looked at the black plate. She deserves answers. I felt tears gather in my eyes. This was not a ritual of danger. It was a ritual of guilt. But there was something else. Benedict, I said gently, when did she die? He hesitated. 10 years ago. I froze. 10 years. We had been married for 2. Which meant he had been doing this long before I came into his life. You have been carrying this alone for 10 years? I asked. He nodded. Then he said something that made my heart pound again. She does not like you touching the plate. My breath caught. What? She gets upset. The air in the room felt heavy. Benedict, I whispered, Miriam is not here. But he shook his head slowly. You do not know that. And that was when I realized this was deeper than grief. Much deeper. As he picked up the black plate and held it close again, his eyes no longer looked sad. They looked distant. Detached. Like he was somewhere else entirely. And for the first time, I began to wonder if my husband needed more than comfort. Because the way he spoke about his dead sister, it sounded like she was still alive in this house. Watching us. Waiting for his report. That night, I did not sleep at all. Benedict lay beside me, breathing slowly, like nothing was wrong. But I stared at the ceiling, thinking about his words. She gets upset. Not I feel upset. Not I remember her voice. He said she gets upset. As if Miriam Lawson was still somewhere in our home. Watching. Listening. Judging. The next morning, he woke up as usual at 6 a.m. He ironed his shirt, used the white plate for breakfast, and kissed my forehead before leaving for work. You look tired, he said softly. I did not sleep well, I replied. He nodded like he understood. But I knew he did not. The moment he left, I picked up my phone. I called his mother. She sounded surprised to hear from me so early. Adora, my daughter, is everything all right? Ma, I said carefully, can you tell me about Miriam? There was a long silence on the other end. Why are you asking? She asked slowly. Benedict told me about her last night. Her breathing changed. He does not like to talk about that, she said. I know, I replied. But I think he is still suffering. Another silence. Then she spoke in a low voice. After Miriam died, Benedict changed. He stopped laughing. He stopped visiting friends. He blamed himself. I closed my eyes. Did he ever talk to her? I asked gently. She did not answer immediately. When he was younger, she said finally, I once saw him in the kitchen at midnight, holding that same plate, speaking softly. My heart beat faster. What did he say? I asked. He was apologizing. The words hit me like a stone. Did you take him to see someone? I pressed. A pastor, she said quickly, and later a therapist. And he stopped for a while. He said he was fine. Fine. The most dangerous word in the world. After I ended the call, I walked slowly to the cupboard. I took out the black plate again. I examined it closely. The silver edge was slightly scratched. The carving of ML looked old. But there was something else. Very faint. Tiny marks on the inside. Like lines scratched with something sharp. I tilted the plate under the light. They looked like numbers. Small. Carefully carved. 1, 2, 3, 4. My hands began to shake. They went all the way around the inner rim. 10 numbers. 10 small marks. My stomach dropped. 10 years. 1 mark for each year. My breath grew shallow. Was Benedict counting something? Reporting something? Or punishing himself? That evening, I decided to push further. When he returned home, I acted normal. I served his dinner on the black plate without argument. He looked relieved. After he finished eating, he stood up to carry it to the sink. I will wash it, I said gently. He froze. No. I am your wife, I said calmly. Let me help. His face tightened. You cannot wash that plate. Why? I asked softly. He stared at me. Because if you break it, I lose her. She is already gone, I whispered. His eyes flashed. You do not understand, he shouted. The sound shocked both of us. He had never raised his voice at me before. He stepped back, breathing hard. I am sorry, he said quickly. But I saw something else in his eyes. Desperation. That night, after he slept, I stayed awake again. At 11:30 p.m., like clockwork, he got up. This time, I did not follow quietly. I walked into the kitchen openly. He stood there with the black plate in his hands. I know you are there, he said without turning. I need to see this, I replied. He turned slowly. I was telling her about today, he said. What did you say? I told her I tried to be better. Better than what? I asked. His face twisted in pain. Better than that day. The guilt was eating him alive. Benedict, I said softly, stepping closer, you were children. An argument does not cause accidents. He looked at me with red eyes. You did not hear what I said to her, he whispered. My heart thudded. What did you say? He hesitated. Then he spoke so quietly I almost missed it. I told her I wished she would disappear. The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my breath catch. She ran out crying, he continued. Those were the last words she heard from me. Tears rolled down his face. And then she disappeared. I moved closer to him carefully. You were angry, I said gently. People say things they do not mean. But I meant it in that moment, he said. His voice broke. I meant it. He looked at the black plate like it was a living thing. Every night I tell her what I have done to make up for it. My mind raced. Make up how? I asked carefully. He looked at me slowly. I do not allow myself to be happy. The air felt heavy again. What do you mean? I whispered. He swallowed. I do not celebrate too much. I do not laugh too loudly. I do not enjoy success fully. My heart cracked. Why? Because she did not get to grow up, he said. So why should I? The pain in his voice was real. But what he said next terrified me. I promised her I would balance the joy. My stomach twisted. Balance it how? He looked down at the black plate. For every good thing that happens to me, I give something up. My hands turned cold. What have you given up? I asked slowly. He hesitated. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. We were not supposed to move to Lekki. My heart skipped. What? I turned down a promotion last year. My mouth went dry. The company offered me a transfer abroad. Higher pay. Bigger position. And you refused? I whispered. He nodded. She did not get opportunities. So I do not deserve them. I felt like the ground beneath me was shifting. All this time, I thought we were building a future together. But Benedict had been secretly holding us back. Punishing himself. Punishing us. Because of a ghost from 10 years ago. He lifted the black plate and ran his finger over the inner rim. There is one mark for every year, he said quietly. I count how long I have carried this. I felt dizzy. And when it reaches 20? I asked. He looked up slowly. His eyes were calm. Too calm. Then the balance will be complete. My heart slammed in my chest. Complete. I repeated. He nodded. And I will join her. The words felt like the world had just stopped. Join her? My knees almost gave way. You mean, I could barely speak. He looked at the black plate with strange peace in his eyes. When the time is right, he said softly. And in that moment, I realized this was no longer just about grief. It was about something much darker. And much more dangerous. Because my husband was not just reporting to his dead sister. He was planning to follow her. For a few seconds, I could not breathe. Join her. The words echoed inside my head like a drum. Benedict, I whispered, stepping toward him. What do you mean you will join her? He did not look at me immediately. He placed the black plate gently on the counter, as if it was fragile. I did not mean now, he said calmly. Not yet. That did not comfort me. Then when? I asked, my voice shaking. When the balance is complete, he replied. I felt anger rise inside me. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that burns slowly. Balance. I said. You think your sister wants you to suffer? To throw your life away? His eyes flashed. You do not know what she wants. She is gone. I cried. The word felt sharp in the small kitchen. He flinched. Do not say it like that, he said softly. I realized something important in that moment. He had not truly accepted her death. He had built a system around it. White plate for new beginnings. Black plate for endings. Morning for hope. Night for guilt. It was not about plates. It was about punishment. And he had been punishing himself for 10 years. But now, his punishment included me. Included our future. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. If you join her, what happens to me? He froze. His eyes finally met mine. I never thought. Exactly, I said gently. You never thought about me. Silence filled the space between us. I could see the conflict on his face. Love and guilt fighting inside him. You deserve better, he whispered. No, I said firmly. I deserve you. Alive. That night, I did something I had never done before. I took the black plate from the counter and held it in my hands. His eyes widened. Adora, do not. But I did not stop. I carried it to the dining table and placed it down. Then I brought a white plate and placed it beside it. Side by side. Look at them, I said. He stood there, tense. Morning and night, I continued. White and black. Life and death. You think they must be separated. He said nothing. But maybe they are meant to exist together, I added softly. He looked confused. What are you saying? I am saying you can remember her without destroying yourself. His breathing grew heavy. I do not know how, he admitted. That was the first honest sentence I had heard from him in weeks. I pulled out a chair and sat down. Tell me everything, I said. He hesitated. Then slowly, he sat opposite me. He began to talk. He told me about that last argument in full detail. How Miriam had wanted to borrow his phone. How he had been stressed about school exams. How he had shouted at her. How he had said the words he could never take back. I told her she was a burden, he said, tears sliding down his face. My chest hurt listening to him. She looked at me like I had broken her, he continued. Then she walked out. He had replayed that moment in his mind for 10 years. Over and over. I kept thinking, he said, if I had not said it, she would have stayed home. But accidents do not work like that, I replied gently. He shook his head. I needed someone to blame. So I chose myself. The honesty in his voice shook me. You carved the marks each year, I said quietly. He nodded. One for every year I survived without her. Survived, I repeated. He gave a weak smile. That is what it feels like. Not lived. Survived. The weight of his pain was clear now. But there was still something dangerous about the way he spoke of the future. Benedict, I asked carefully, when you said you would join her at 20 years, what did you plan to do? He looked at the table. I do not know, he said at first. I waited. Then he whispered, sometimes I think about stopping everything. My heart pounded. Stopping what? Work. Effort. Trying. He looked up at me. Just letting life fade. The room felt cold. This was no longer just ritual. This was a quiet plan to disappear. You are not alone anymore, I said firmly. He stared at me. You have me. His eyes filled with fresh tears. I did not want to drag you into this, he said. You already have, I replied softly. We sat there in silence for a long time. Then I did something bold. I picked up the black plate and walked toward the sink. His chair scraped loudly. What are you doing? I turned on the tap. I am washing it. He rushed forward and grabbed my wrist. Do not break it. I will not, I said calmly. He slowly released me. I washed it carefully. Not with fear. Not with ritual. Just like a plate. When I finished, I dried it and placed it on the rack. Then I took the white plate and placed it beside it. Together. Not separated. He stared at them like he had never seen them that way before. What if she gets angry? He whispered. I walked up to him and held his face gently. If she loved you, I said softly, she would not want you to suffer. He closed his eyes. For the first time, I saw something shift inside him. Not fully, but slightly. A crack in the wall he had built. We returned to bed. But this time, he did not wake at 11:30 p.m. He slept. Deeply. And I thought maybe we had taken the first step. But the next morning proved I was wrong. I woke up to the sound of something shattering. I ran to the kitchen. The black plate was on the floor. Broken into pieces. And Benedict was standing over it. His hands were shaking. I did not touch it, he whispered. My heart dropped. What happened? I asked. He looked terrified. It fell. I looked at the rack. The white plate was still standing safely beside it. Only the black one had fallen. He looked at me with wide eyes. She is angry. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The plate breaking might have been an accident. But to Benedict, it was a sign. And signs, in a mind filled with guilt, can become very dangerous. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. The broken black plate lay on the kitchen tiles, its pieces scattered like dark shards of glass. The thin silver line that once circled its edge was now jagged and bent. Benedict looked pale. She is angry, he repeated. No, I said firmly, even though my heart was racing. It slipped. Plates fall. But he was not listening. He slowly knelt down and began picking up the pieces with trembling fingers. One sharp edge cut his skin. A thin line of blood appeared on his hand. He did not react. He just stared at the blood. Balance, he whispered. My stomach tightened. This is not balance, I said, rushing forward and pulling his hand away. You are bleeding. He looked at me with strange calmness. For every joy, something must break. The words frightened me more than the shattered plate. I grabbed a towel and pressed it to his hand. Listen to me, I said slowly, forcing him to look at me. A broken plate is not a message. It is not a punishment. It is gravity. But he shook his head. I slept, he said softly. For the first time in years, I did not wake at 11:30. And that is a good thing, I replied. Maybe she did not like that, he whispered. The fear in his eyes was real. I understood something then. If I allowed him to believe this was a sign, the guilt would grow stronger than ever. And this time, it would not just be about marks on a plate. It would be about his life. I stood up. Without thinking too long, I did something bold. I gathered every broken piece of the black plate into my hands. Adora, he began. But before he could stop me, I walked to the trash bin and dropped the pieces inside. The sound of ceramic hitting plastic echoed loudly. He stared at me in shock. You cannot do that, he said. I just did, I replied. His breathing became fast. That was her plate. No, I said gently. It was an object. You made it her. Silence fell between us. I expected him to shout, to cry, to break down. But instead, he looked empty. You do not understand, he said quietly. Then make me understand, I answered. He walked slowly to the dining table and sat down. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he spoke in a voice I had never heard before. There was one more promise. My heart tightened. What promise? He looked at the empty space where the black plate used to sit. I told her that if I ever forgot her, if I ever allowed myself to be completely happy, I would not deserve to live. My chest felt heavy. That is not love, I said softly. That is punishment. He closed his eyes. I thought carrying the guilt was honoring her. And now? I asked. He opened his eyes slowly. Now I feel like I have betrayed her. The words cut deep. You did not betray her, I said firmly. You survived. He looked at me as if the word surprised him. Survived. Not failed. Not escaped. Survived. We sat in silence for a long time. Then I said something that changed everything. We are going to see someone. He frowned slightly. A therapist. He hesitated. I went before. And you will go again, I replied. This time, he did not argue. That afternoon, we left the house together. For the first time, there was no black plate waiting in the cupboard. The kitchen looked normal. Ordinary. Like any other Nigerian home. Days passed. The first night without the black plate was difficult. At 11:30 p.m., Benedict's eyes opened. I felt him tense beside me. He almost got out of bed. But I held his hand tightly. I am here, I whispered. He stayed. The second night was easier. The third night, he did not wake at all. Slowly, very slowly, something began to shift. He started talking more in therapy. He cried openly for the first time in years. He admitted that the plate had become a symbol of control. If he could control his guilt, he could avoid facing the real pain. But now, without it, he felt exposed. Raw. One evening, as we ate dinner on 2 plain white plates, he looked at me quietly. It feels strange, he said. What does? I asked. Eating without fear. I smiled softly. That is called living. For the first time in our marriage, he laughed freely. Not softly. Not carefully. Fully. The sound filled the house. And I felt hope rise inside me. Weeks passed. Then months. Benedict accepted the promotion he had once rejected. We began planning for a new chapter of our lives. But just when I thought we were finally free, something happened. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning the bedroom when I opened the drawer of his bedside table. Inside, beneath old documents, I saw something wrapped in cloth. My heart began to beat faster. I slowly unwrapped it, and my breath stopped. It was a black ceramic plate. Not broken. Not scratched. Perfect. With the same thin silver line around the edge. And at the bottom, 2 letters carved carefully by hand. ML. My hands started shaking. This was not the broken one. This was another one. He had replaced it. But he had not told me. I heard the front door open. His footsteps moved through the living room. Closer. Closer. I quickly wrapped the plate back in cloth and held it in my hands. When he entered the bedroom, he froze. Our eyes met. Neither of us spoke. The silence between us felt heavier than ever. Slowly, I lifted the wrapped plate. "Benedict," I said quietly, my voice barely steady, "why do you still have this?" His face changed. Not guilt. Not sadness. Something else. Something I had never seen before. And as he slowly stepped toward me, his expression unreadable, I realized with a chill that perhaps the black plate had never truly been about grief. Perhaps it was about something he still had not told me. And whatever that secret was, it was far more terrifying than I had ever imagined. Thank you for listening. What is your view about this story? Let us know in the comment section. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.